Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay. All right.
It's Titania Jordan. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I am here with Darrell Winfield, Chief Information Officer at Paya.
Yes, good to meet you.
Love that name. Tell us about well, I love your name. And
Paya or me?
Yeah, and the company name. Tell us about Paya.
The name, well, Paya, that's an interesting story. It takes today a tremendous amount of effort and financial costs, honestly, to try to find a name, because a name today has to do so much more than just identify the company and who you are and somewhat represent your brand and leave some sort of impression you hope in just saying the name. But it also has to have real usability, meaning you don't want it to be too hard to type into a web address, and you don't want to have to be too many letters, and you don't want it to be somebody else's name.
No.
And all of that. And so it's a big challenge, and we were really fortunate to find a name. It's easy to say, it's easy to enter. It sort of triggers further questions. Paya, where did that come from? Just like you asked me.
Yeah.
And then it sort of fits all the boxes, and we were really happy with it.
It's awesome. You have a very interesting background. It's fascinating, and a lot of people wish they could have just a speck of a life like yours. So if you don't know, Darrell was in the Air Force, then worked for NASA.
Yeah, then followed with NASA.
Yeah, and now you are the CIO of a company in the payments industry. So how did that path happen?
I get asked that question all the time. Not directly.
Meandering.
It had meandered a little bit. The Air Force part of it, the flight research, flight test part of it, the NASA part of it, those were natural progressions and very much intended. I decided I wanted to fly airplanes when I was a teenager. I didn't stumble into it. I focused on it. Everything I took in high school, math, science, it was all about that goal and ensuring that I was competitive. I would be selected. At the time, I thought I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy to lead to that end. And I was fortunate enough, because it's a hard path to get there. My health stayed good enough. There's lots of things that can eliminate you. The grades were good enough. The college opportunity was there. I went to Virginia Military Institute.
Wow.
In Virginia. And then I did get a flight slot. I was a navigator. Got through the training, which was a hard path as well. That was pretty much a washout process back then, and it just sort of worked out. Performed well, got the opportunity to get into flight research, got selected for that, ended up out at NASA, and then just as a consequence of supporting some NASA functions while I was stationed out at Edwards, got to know some of those guys, and then that opportunity sort of presented itself, and that's how I ended up there. The payments part of it, believe it or not, still goes back to the Air Force days. A pilot friend of mine that I'd flown with, we were on the same crew, he had gotten out sometime early intending to go to Delta, be a Delta pilot, and he had a computer science degree. And he started working for wasn't Global Payments then, it was NDC.
Wow.
National Data Corporation, which had formed a division that then became a company called Global Payments, a very big company that's just here. And that's how I ended up in the payment space, as he had progressed through a similar career path inside of Global Payments, from large-scale project management, program management, and into running division of the company. They needed a backfill, and he called me, and they recruited me for a few years, and finally, after some pressure from them and some pressure from my wife to get out of that desert, I was married at the time, that's how I ended up there.
Wow. I love hearing people's stories and their life path and the changes they take, but I think for a reason.
Right.
It's great. So how people and merchants and businesses make payments and process transactions is rapidly evolving.
Yes.
Can you give us an overview of the history of payments processing and how we got to here?
Yeah, gladly. it's a fast-paced story, and it's moving quicker all the time.
Yeah.
In the beginning, and some will remember, you used to lay a piece of plastic down in a machine, and they used to have to swipe it. Yeah, there's a term for those. We call those things knuckle busters, because you have to grab it like this, and if you grabbed it wrong, you could slam your knuckles, especially men with bigger hands, could slam your knuckles rubbing it across that thing. And that's what it was. But there was a method to that madness, as we think of it today, which was the ability to issue revolving and open lines of credit without you having to go to a lending institution or a bank, walk in the door, get a cash loan, or do layaway at the merchant to buy what you wanted at the time. So it was just a way of accelerating commerce, easing the pain of buying things, and allowing the merchants to be able to sell, probably at first, more big ticket items. But now, as we've gotten more and more used to using that form of payment, obviously the level of the spend on a card purchase or card-related purchase has come down, and it's almost come to the point where even myself yesterday, I started to pay with cash, fumbled in my wallet a few seconds to do so, and just sort of tapped out on that process and grabbed my plastic and go, hey, just take this.
Just take it.
So it started out with those things, but as technology has progressed and as everyone in the industry sort of looked to ease the process for the consumer and the merchants and to speed up the process, then mag readers came into play, usually at big chain stores. I can remember as a teenager going to like Sears and Roebucks and places like that, who could afford the big software at the time.
Right.
And they would swipe the card inside the terminal, inside the computer keyboard itself. And then, again, like everything else, the big guys sort of drive the initiative, and it makes its way down, if you will, in a trickle-down effect. So then simpler forms of electronic acceptance came in the form of keypad and swipe terminals at merchants. Again, now you don't have the knuckle buster to deal with. You don't have all that paper. Imagine the paper movement that went on back then.
Yeah.
I actually had a summer job processing that paper. It would come in zipped envelopes to the banks.
Wow.
To the merchant's bank. And in the back room, you had to hand key that in on a 9-key machine and take that receipt and add it to his cash deposits for the day. So that was very, very labor and time intensive.
Yes.
And then since then, we've evolved into this software age very rapidly. And then that's where Moore's Law starts to be applied to now consumer space, which is, the pace of acceleration and the ability and the ease of payment and the options to pay. You and I were just talking about how you ordered your lunch.
Yes.
That would not be possible without some form of integrated payment acceptance between that vendor, some wallet you probably established on your phone, and that mobile app to execute that.
I literally just ordered smoothies for an app and a tap and a fingerprint verification.
Yeah,
I'd
on your
already
phone.
entered.
So your
on my
phone's
phone.
an integral part of the security of that transaction.
Yeah.
But that in and of itself is the essence of an integrated payment format, software-driven payments. So his website or the multiple websites, ability to order from any vendor, food vendor you wanted to get your lunch from, and then to pay someone that both the guy that created the food got paid, the person that's going to deliver got paid, you see the total, and it all happens with your thumbprint.
That.
And on the retail side, it's getting, the future holds, and the future is today really, in integrated type purchases where you're looking at merchandise. I bought a TV today, we're moving. And so I bought a TV today, this morning, laying in my bed by the nightstand, selected the TV, purchased the TV, and set it up for pickup at the store. So I will go into the store, grab physical merchandise out of the inventory, not have to deal with a cash register. So things like that is that blended thing. And it's not just happening in retail. It's happening in your doctor's office. It's happening at your pharmacy. It's happening in almost everything you do, where they're trying to make it easy in the integration now of business software, like your doctor's accounting software, how they track you as a patient, which bills you've paid, your co-pays, and whether all that's come together. is another type of integrated payment, and we are involved heavily in that space as well.
It's wonderful. It's so cool, just as a mom and a female that is just crazy busy, that the fact that from my phone I can pull up the Zappos app, order these Adidas, they'll be here in 2 days, free shipping, thank you Zappos. I can also deposit a check, again, mobile deposit with my SunTrust app, like beautiful. I can do all the things with my phone. I'm like James Bond.
Yes, and that's putting a tremendous amount of opportunity and a tremendous amount of demand and pressure on the payments ecosystem, which you will have to remember started out as a banking ecosystem. And some of us can remember how slow banks moved to change.
Right.
And so what's happening is now the whole payments industry is becoming very, very consumer driven. And as consumers have become far more comfortable with the ease of payment, either through card or through the phone, and now getting to the point where they don't even want to have to carry the plastic in hand, it puts a lot of pressure on the ecosystem to find a way to satisfy that demand. And the same consumers who are used to that experience in the retail life are putting it into other things that they do.
Right.
Into your mechanic's shop and into, like, again, your doctor's office, anything you interact with. You don't want to have to go through that pain.
No, the day that I don't have to carry my wallet with me anymore and I truly can use Apple Pay or whatever phone I'm using at the time, or even my watch,
or
to pay
anything
everywhere.
that identifies you.
Or anything that identifies me and has linked to my bank account.
Yes, that day is very close.
That is a good thing.
The
I
day
think
is
it's a
very
scary
close.
thing, but it's a good thing. So, Darrell, you obviously have a wealth of knowledge in this space, and not only with what has come, but what is to come.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, what does the future of payments processing look like in the near term, but then also, 5 to 10 years down the road?
Right. In the near term, very near term, more of what you experienced this morning, as we talked about, with the integration of your phone, your app, your computer. Because remember, if you take even a Walmart, for example, now there's 3 or 4 different ways you can shop that experience. So you can shop them by phone, you can open the same cart, logging into your computer if you get tired of dealing with it at the phone, and you can walk into the store and pick up the merchandise. That is 3 completely different experiences, but you've integrated them all.
Yeah, it's a seamless and omni-channel.
To close that deal.
Yeah.
And you're also seeing that because of that, even those guys who are traditionally like the Amazons of the world, that's big news, they're getting into the storefront space. Because at the end of the day, there's some things you want to buy that, although you may want the purchase experience to be as seamless as online, you want to see it, touch it, try it on, right? If you got a pretty standard foot size, then Zappos works for you. But if you don't, and you really want to see that shoe on your foot, well, then you want to be able to maybe order and down select through Zappos, go to the store, try that shoe on and go, you know what, these 3 pairs I'm going to take, they're already prepaid. This pair I want to return right now and walk out of here with them. So that's a bit of what the future looks like. And again, bringing some of those experiences, those payment experiences, to other areas, like on the consumer level, dealing with doctors and other things like that you deal with, but also to the B2B space. Businesses are asking for some of the same ways of being able to deal with each other as well, simplified payments to deal with each other. So that's what's happening in the near future. Further down the road, we'll probably shift away from 2 current very strong tied identifiers to who you are and your ability to buy, or 3. Today, a lot of places still use your social security number, okay? And with recent data compromises, that really can no longer be considered a unique identifier of you.
No.
And then same thing with cards, although the credit card industry has taken a lot of big steps to try to secure the integrity of that card ID they're pinned to you. And with the advent of chip cards and things like that, they made the cards a lot harder to counterfeit. But still, that thing exists. And then when it comes to off card or off revolving credit forms of payment like ACH, EFT, direct debits to your bank accounts. Today, you still have to give them your bank account number to set that sort of form of payment up. So I think what the future is going to hold, is some sort of change of more secure form of being able to tie all those things together, but with them being more secure to you.
Right.
And then on the other hand, as far as the actual payment experience, we're headed that way. Amazon's already playing in the space where, even today, when you can use your phone in store, there's still this stand in line, wait till your turn to get to the register. They total things up and you pay, but what'll end up happening, you'll start to get to a level where when you pass through the stores, you're identified as who you are. Your ability to pay is already proven, and then you will pick up your merchandise and just keep walking. That'll just happen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the less friction, more security world
Right.
that we are evolving towards.
We are headed that way. Some of the preventers today, we have to do it slow. We have to be cautious. Identity theft is an issue, and security now has become, at least from where I sit in the CIO chair, right? It's become probably the leading thing. So before it was, simplify first, but now it's like security first and then solve the simplification problem in the context of that. You cannot compromise security ever.
It's all you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just imagine some of the sleepless nights that people in your role might have. So thank you for being in that space. I want to talk about Paya specifically now.
Okay.
What role does Paya play in the payments industry, and what innovations are you working on to further disrupt this industry?
Well, we're doing a lot of things. We're in a very interesting field for a guy like me who likes challenges and likes solving problems. It's very competitive, it's very dynamic, it's fast moving. We work with a lot of different individuals because we sort of sit in the space between guys who are somewhat innovating in the business software space and solving those problems, and the traditional acquirers and the banks, that part of the transaction. So we really exist to solve that integration of payments and software, business software usually of some form, or merchant software in some form. Because what you have is the guys that are sort of in that business software space, they know that business software, but they don't necessarily want to participate in the payment space, because the payment space is probably second only in regulation and in risk and liabilities to medical with HIPAA or banking themselves. And then right behind that is the integrity of payments. So there's a lot of regulation, there's a lot of liability, and usually those software guys want to stay out of that space, and that's where we come in.
Oh, that's beautiful. Like FINRA and SEC, and I mean, there's so much you have to adhere to from a regulatory standpoint. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to do.
PADSS, PCI, there are a lot of those things. And we're on the hook. We're always liable for the data that we have, both the card data and your personal information. We have it passed through our systems. We store as little of it as possible. We encrypt all of it to make sure we try to protect it at all times. But it keeps those guys out of that space and allow them to be nimble. But since payments are such an integrated part of what their software does, they want that in-app experience to be as seamless and smooth as possible when we start talking fully integrated. And then there's some other experiences where they may not want it to be fully integrated and that's fully embedded in their software, our code embedded in theirs, and so on and so forth. But they do want, even if there's some sort of handoff, to be, again, as smooth as possible. And that's when you start getting into the semi-integrated space. And we play very little in the non-integrated space, which means we'd walk up to you as a retailer and sell your terminal device and stick it on your counter. That's not our space. We're software payments, and that's what we do. We specialize in trying to build very robust software, very flexible, make it as easy as possible, both for, like I said, the ISVs and the value-added resellers of larger ERP software, to compete, because it's a very competitive landscape for those guys as well. They're not the only ones trying to sell to that doctor's office or that chain. So we want to make that seamless. And in most of those guys, even for us, the competitive part is they usually do not isolate themselves to one integrator. So we want our stuff to be slicker, easiest to code to, easiest to partner with, timely support when they need it. Because like all software, it doesn't just fit together like a puzzle. It sounds like it, but it doesn't. And there's always an element of troubleshooting and debugging and some development and design and architecture that has to get solved on the front end for that all works. And then, like I said, it's never static. It's a problem that's being solved every day.
It's always changing.
Every day, you're back at it every day. So that's what we're trying to do as a company. The new thing about us is, because this company was previously an wholly owned division of Sage Software, everything we had today was either riding their rails, riding their infrastructure, and was also developed and evolved at the pace of Sage Software, and was very much coupled to how their software was written. The big challenge for us, and for me, is obviously lifting us out into our own infrastructure, which I can say, we are truly committed to our technology. The investment and the support I've received, and re-platforming our entire application stack. Nothing will be the same once we move. It's no database, no virtual machine, no physical hardware, no network gear. Nothing's the same. We've made a complete investment in rebuilding ourselves and re-platforming ourselves. We've invested in the latest technology in order for us to monitor and operate that ecosystem, the latest in data platforming, all of that. So we have some exciting things to bring to the market space. And most of that is starting to gain traction and take hold right now, as we are in our last few months of that carve out. And so, the industry will be hearing from us for sure. We have a very strong leadership team. They're very committed. And we have a lot of support from our private equity firm. And we're excited. We're excited.
I don't know how you could not be. Darrell Winfield, CIO of Paya, who clearly likes to seek out challenging yet rewarding endeavors.
Definitely. I like to push myself.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing, and I know that your team is thankful that you do that.
Yeah.
It is such an honor to have you here. I know you're a very busy man, and just hear what you're working on and how it all came to be. And I hope you'll come back.
I will.
Awesome.
For sure.
Awesome.
Atlanta's my town. Our Atlanta office is just a few blocks from your studio, so glad to come back anytime and look forward to hopefully have some good things to tell you about how we're done over the year.
Awesome. For anybody who wants to learn more and follow along with what you're working on, where should they go?
Well, we have our website up, paya.com. You can start there. Obviously, down below that page is all the Twitter clicks and things like that, so follow us on Twitter, follow our updates on LinkedIn. Lots of press going out there, lots of updates going on in the future. So stay in contact, follow us, reach out to me directly if someone's interested, and talk to me about the company and what we have going on.
That's great. That's great. We'll drop the links below. Darrell Winfield, CIO, Paya, thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you.